This show brings the temperature of sports to a whole new level. Whether it's a local opinion or a national agenda, everything is fair game. Remember, everyone has an opinion, but only few can back it up. Now sit back, crank up the volume, and if you think you can handle it, get ready for the heat.
What's up, everybody? Tony Cotillo here. Heat Ratio Sports, episode 149. We're going to call this the Ben Simmons Takeover Show, straight off an unbelievable performance last night. I'm your host, Tony Jigsaw Cotillo, joined always by Mikey Googs and by Dan Green. And for the first time, making his debut, Mr. Vance Crew at the Flyer and Ice guys on the Heat Ratio Live Show, which is unbelievable. Topics tonight that are not what we're not going to mention. We're going to talk about Philadelphia Phillies. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. We're going to talk about greatest swings in baseball. We're going to talk a little baseball trivia, and we're going to end with a little Tupac talk when we're talking about MC versus lyricist, and rapper, I should say. So number one, as always, first comment tonight is always Trevor. What's up, my man, Trevor? Always checking in. But Ben Simmons talk has to reign supreme tonight. And the reason why I say this is because I've been saying this for the last 2 years. I consistently have said it. I don't care if Ben ever shoots. What I need Ben to do is score. I need him to finish. I need to be his decisive. Not stop looking for the pass and just take it to the friggin' hole and finish. And that's what he did last night. And what a difference. And the thing I'll say, fellas, is I actually watched the team take up defensively on Ben Simmons. That's the first time, and Ben demanded the ball. Ben was looking to score. I was loving every minute of it last night. The question is, and Vance, you're the guest on the show tonight because your debut, I want to go right to you first. Can this continue, and can it happen with Joel on the court at the same time?
Yeah, I think it can. With Ben, I always go back to the Brooklyn Nets series, Game 3, 2 years ago, when he had the 31 points. And ever since then, my expectations for him have been really high. He has the kind of talent. He can do this. I think he can keep it going. I do notice that Doc has made a few adjustments. Screens down low. Joel playing out high allows Ben to get to the basket and do what he does best. So I think if they continue to work that, there's no reason for him not to expect for him to continue to flourish in this offense.
It's a great point. It really is. And again, I know I've been hard on Ben. I get it. And a lot of people have been hard on Ben. And rightfully so. Listen, we need him to do, not necessarily score 40 points, but we need him to be an offensive, not juggernaut, I wouldn't say, but we need him to be an offensive weapon. And that means we watch him too many times go, damn, me and you have talked about it so many times. Watch, he stopped again, turned his back. He's up in the air trying to throw the ball around. Last night it was like, yo, give me the ball and let me take over. Completely different Ben Simmons. And I love how he went right up against Rudy Gobert last night, who would, to me, I don't care. I don't know how he's the best defensive player in the league. He's one of the softest players I've ever seen. I don't get it. I don't understand. You see how he got all mad and pushed Ben to the ground last night. Stop. Rudy Gobert, I'm sorry. I can't stand Rudy Gobert. But Dan, your point, Ben Simmons, I know you're not going to be sold yet, but are you at least encouraged on what he was able to do last night?
Well, I'm encouraged on a couple fronts. The first front is he made me have my greatest DFS lineup ever. I think he had like 77 points on my DFS lineup. So right then,
by the way,
right then he's like golden for me. But here's ironically a moment that it's funny. Al Abdenabi took the words right out of my mouth. Ben drove to the lane, squared his shoulders, took a left-handed 10-foot jump shot, missed. And they were like, I'm okay with that shot. Squared himself up. I remember that. And I was the same way. I didn't give a shit that he missed. That's what I want to see. Because he was feeling his mojo at that point. He probably had 30 points around the time of that shot. just do that for me. You know, you're gonna make your share and you're gonna miss your share, but just go take the shot. And he didn't do any of that herky jerky, you know, give up bunny layups and kick it out to a 3-point shot. And honestly, he could have 50 points last night because, you know, I think he was getting tired. He really played a lot last night, and he was starting to miss some bunny layups towards the end of the game. I think he did his. Again, I hate when he does that turnaround right-handed hook. It's like, dude, you're on fire. Just take it strong, square yourself up, stop with this baby hook crap. And the game was kind of already out of hand by then. But also to Vance's point, you asked, will he do this going forward? And Vance, you referenced something that happened 2 years ago when he scored 31 points. Clearly, it didn't go forward from that point. So I want to see it from this point going forward. And honestly, yeah, he's probably going to, you know, be a little less selfish with Joel in the game. And that's something we'll have to see how that works out. You know, Joel supposedly encourages him to shoot and wants him to shoot, but it's his team. You know how he is. He's like a contradiction of himself when he does interviews, Joel Embiid. But I want Ben to be more aggressive. That's just the key. And when you get in the lane, take the shot. That's all I care about. When you get in the lane, take the shot.
Yes. Make the decision, know what to do with the ball, and be decisive about it and be strong. And the thing is with Joel, we know the offense is going to run through Joel. We get it. When Joel comes back, it's going to run. But just Ben having the option, it is amazing what the difference of a team when they focus on him as opposed when they don't. I mean, it's just, we're going to get into Danny Green. I know Christian has a great point. Listen, I know Danny Green and Furkan need to go. We definitely need help at the trade deadline. What I will say is I've had enough of Furkan. I've always had enough of Furkan. Number one, I had enough of his bad hair and his bad shoes. But not it really does. I mean, the dude just really needs to get a better hair game and a better shoe game. But
that's important.
Right. You know what I mean, Mike? Seriously, it's imperative that you have a kick-ass shoe game on national television.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Especially in the NBA.
Right.
It's almost mandatory.
Come on, man. If you want to rock the purple skinny jeans when you're on the sideline and you're not playing, you definitely have to up the game when it comes to the kicks on the court.
Just huggers and green shoes. Ugh.
Yeah, it's weak. It is. Hey, here's a problem though. I'll say about Danny Green. Danny Green's just being used wrong. Okay, Danny Green should not be a starter on this team. But he's forced into the starting role because we don't have anybody else. Right? I personally don't think Seth Curry should be a starter on this team. Right? So if you're think about that bench. If we can add another piece and our bench now becomes Seth Curry, Danny Green, and Shake Milton as your top three off the bench, that's explosive. But right now, they're being overused. That's why they're so inconsistent. And I don't know why people don't see that. And that's one of the problems. So, Mike, to bring this back to Ben Simmons, because I know, listen, me and you have kind of been on the same page. And we know Ben's all about Ben. He's the Hollywood persona. And the big question was, is he only playing this hard because he got snubbed for the All-Star game? Or maybe, all of a sudden he wants to show he should be an All-Star, or he's trying to make the – or do you think this is actually Ben being a little bit more mature and growing up in front of us?
Drafted in 2016, the answer is, who knows? I mean, the guy's a mystery. I mean, for him to, first of all, let's just say this. Could you imagine if he did that every night? I mean, he clearly has the capability to do that every night.
Yep.
But you never know what you're going to get. So everybody's going to say that, man, if he would, Dan brings up an interesting point. Just take the shot. We all feel that we know what we want him to do. All right. But has he ever done it? I mean, that I've been pretty harsh on Ben Simmons, but again, I don't know nearly as much about the NBA and basketball as I do NFL, which is my that's my sport. You know what I mean? But I'll just comment based upon what I see, and what I see is this guy's got the talent. I mean, he's a guy that can basically guard anybody. I mean, he could shut people down. He does things that nobody can do. But then when it comes down to the basic stuff, like if he really wanted to dominate, he could do that every night. So the dude's a mystery. He still can't be evaluated. 5 years later, we still don't know what we have. So the answer is, who the hell knows?
It's the truth, though. We don't know. And again, this is a different team, a different regime under Doc. All right. You have a guy named Sam Cassell, killer Sam Cassell, who's trying to work with them. Right. And again, only Ben knows, right? Honestly, only Ben knows. You're right, Mike. You said the perfect word is mystery. Ben has always been a mystery, right? We always know. We never know what Ben's thinking. The one thing I can say is I see more of a dog mentality out of him this year than I remember the last couple of years. He's right. He's got. And I honestly, I think a lot of that has to do with guys like Dwight Howard. I think a lot of that has to do with Doc Rivers, who again, Doc knows. Listen, I wasn't the best shooter on the court. Doc used to drop dimes, man, all the time. So he knows how to play this game. So maybe he sees a little bit of that in Ben, and he's trying to make the comparison of like, hey, you don't have to be this, but you can be this. So a lot of different things for Ben this year.
An interesting point. So let's see what happens now after he's shown this type of game with Doc on the sideline. Let's see how Doc sort of motivates him or brings him to the next level. I don't know. Maybe it's something to build off of. But if you ask me, just based on previous seasons and what he's done before, we've seen this before.
Yeah, we have. And Scotty talks Philly sports. What's up, Scotty? How you doing, buddy? Brings up a good point. And this is what I was just going to say to Vance is, he says Ben could get 20 on layups, putbacks, and free throws. The last part of that to me is the most important. Is free throws. Last night, 12 out of 13. Right? And Vance, this is what I was looking at today. I'm looking at all the games. I'm saying, okay, we know Joel is guaranteed to get 10 shots from the free throw line a game. Guaranteed. If Ben can get 10 guaranteed, and he should be able to by driving a hole, and Toby can get you 8 guaranteed, that's 28 to possibly 30 free points a game. And if you could shoot 80%, that's an astronomical number. So, again, free throws, putbacks, layups. Do you think Ben can continue to just score without having that jump shot that everybody thinks he needs?
Yeah, I think he can. I think it goes back to what I talked about earlier, that adjustment that Doc has made. I think having Joel Embiid out top of the key and on the elbow and opening up that lane for Ben, it makes a huge difference. Joel, we talked about a lot in the past about how he's a post-up player, but he's arguably a better face-up player than he is post-up player. And that actually works to Doc's advantage. It gives Doc a lot more opportunity to use Ben in different ways. So I think, the best way to use Joel Embiid at this point, and also Ben Simmons, is to continue to use Joel Embiid at the top of the key and let Ben get that full head of steam going to the basket.
Right.
And use him that way.
No, I completely agree. Yeah. Completely. I mean, we've talked about on the show about guys that can consistently get to the glass with ease. You talk about guys like Russell Westbrook and John Wall. Ben's right up there, man. Oh, yeah. He is right up. I mean, obviously LeBron, but Ben can just do whatever he wants. He's that strong and that fast, and that's scary for this league. Al says, "Why does everything in Philly have to be a conspiracy theory?"
That's just the way it is, Al.
It's Philly, Al. That's what it's Philly. This is what we do, man. It's what we do. It's what we are best at, right? It's obviously what we are best at.
Well,
everything is conspiracy theory.
Tone, the thing that's encouraging about what you said about his 12 for 13 at the line last night is hopefully that'll make him continue the mindset of owning the basketball late in the game, because he hides from the basketball late in the game because he doesn't want to go to the line. He has this cool persona about, the old hack-a-shack with Ben, but he didn't want to go to the line at the end of the game. So maybe he actually has confidence, and that's going to trend upward. And I also wanted to touch base. I was texting with Al last night after his show ended. There was no law that said we couldn't have stole that game last night. How many games have we given away when we were going up against teams that were without their superstars? We gave away a Nets game and we gave away a Portland game, and they didn't have anyone playing. Right. So why couldn't we have done the same thing? Well, 2 guys stepped up. And don't forget about Tobias Harris. He's been a stud.
Beast.
And he was also in my DFS lineup last night, Tone. So
you always take a shot at him.
Well, I know all the time. He's killing me. That's why.
No. I had those guys. So Tobias has been great. So now getting back to your other point, Curry and Danny Green, my namesake, they heard, if Curry started off strong and he didn't do anything the rest of the game. It was bad. So Tobias and Ben stepped up the game to almost salvage a steal of a victory, but the supporting cast didn't do their job, and that was the problem. And Danny Green, I mentioned this as a commenter on one of your half court shows. His legs are so heavy. I mean, to me, I've been saying it from the jump, and I think some people were saying, wait till he gets in games. He's done. His legs are shot. You know how when athletes, Barry Bonds used to be a slick fielding left fielder, stole bases, and then he just didn't have the legs anymore. He's done. His legs are shot.
Yeah.
Did you see him miss that layup at the end?
That was Curry, but I'm talking about
Curry.
Danny Green's legs.
Right, but on side, you see Seth Curry missed that. I mean, listen, here's the thing about Danny Green, and I said this on Half Court Heat, that I'm not killing Danny Green only because he is a veteran who played an extended season into a championship. He didn't really have a long off season, right? Who should not be playing starter minutes anyway. So it's hard. I mean, it's hard for me to kill Danny Green. I just don't. Danny Green is a really good player if you use him the right way. It's just not being used the right way. So that makes me think, what can we do going forward? What kind of moves can we make? Will, so what's up? Will says, well, he has to be consistent every night. That aggressive, talking about Ben, aggressiveness last night is what we were looking for, but Seth and Green were not there. Right. And no Shake. Right. Absolutely. It's amazing how much Shake changes the game. And he says, he's not a starter anymore, speaking about Danny Green, which is what we're talking about. So there's guys out there. Now, I don't know, what kind of guys that we can get as of right now. We still have some time here. And the one good thing I will say is we're going to be in that buyout market because now we are an attractive place to play. It is, before it was like, why come to the Sixers? Nobody wants to go to the Sixers. But now when you're one of the top teams in the East and you can compete for a championship, it's like, oh, hold on. Okay, now I will do a DeMarcus Cousins. I will go somewhere for 1 year. I will go somewhere on the trade exception. Right? So we don't even know who those players are available now. There's a couple of people talking about Kemba Walker. I'm not a big Kemba guy. I'll tell you what I want to talk about. I know, guys, and here we go. We'll already brought up Blake Griffin, which I think is a really good name to bring up. Another name I want to bring up is Kyle Lowry. And I keep thinking that, man, I'll tell you what, I don't think of a better player, in my opinion, for this team than Kyle Lowry. If there's a way to get Kyle Lowry on this team, Vance, how good would Kyle Lowry look in a Philadelphia 76ers uniform?
Shout out to my man Scotty, because Scotty and I talked about this on Twitter the other day.
There you go.
Kyle Lowry is the perfect fit. He's a Philadelphia guy. He plays with the attitude that we need. He's a veteran, been there before, gotten it done already. You add to your locker room a guy like Kyle Lowry with Dwight Howard. That's what you need. Not just that, he can still play. I mean, he can still play major minutes. And if you can get a guy like him and potentially keep a guy like Danny Green, my personal opinion about Danny Green is playing too many minutes. And I think he's being exposed. If you look back at his minutes with the Lakers last year, he's playing around 24 minutes. This year, he's up to around 29. 5 minutes is a big difference.
Yep.
And, to talk about that a little bit more, I think, coming into this season, my hope is that Matisse was a little bit better on the offensive end. And that would have, given Danny Green a little bit of a chance to take a little bit more of a break. But I think because Matisse still struggles on the offensive end, you have to play Danny Green more. But back to your original question, I think Kyle Lowry is the perfect fit. It's all about what it would cost.
Right. What are you willing to give up for him?
Well,
I don't want to give up Matisse or Maxey.
See, I disagree with that. I do. I honestly disagree with that. Here's this is this good discussion point. And Bill says last show, Tony, you said two veterans. Absolutely, two pieces. You're right. We need two pieces. I agree. Corky has to go too streaky. Yeah. But here's what I disagree with, Dan, and I'll tell you why. If you have an opportunity, and we're looking right now, I brought this up today. The Anthony Davis injury is huge. Even though it's an Achilles strain, it's huge because
It's going to linger all year. Yeah, it's going to linger all year.
Exactly. And without AD, the Lakers are not winning the chip. I'm sorry. So if you look at the watered down competition now, and you look at we can get Kyle Lowry, guess what? We're number one in the East, and we're competing for the ring. We're competing for the chip. I'm taking that opportunity because it doesn't always exist. Remember, I remember specifically, if you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but the year that Kawhi Leonard beat us with that bouncing ball off the rim in Game 7, I wanted Kawhi Leonard, right? I'm not saying when it came here, but everyone's like, I would never give up anybody for Kawhi Leonard. Stop. Okay, if you have Kawhi Leonard that year, you probably win the championship. Okay,
yeah, but you don't have Ben on the team that year, though.
I get it. I understand.
And he's you give up the farm for a 1-year guy.
You don't know that, though.
It's a rental.
You don't know that. But again, would you? All right, that's a good question. Do you want a ring? Do you want a
I do want a ring. If I had a crystal ball, I would do it. If I had a crystal ball, I would do it.
And that's my point. I think you have the window of opportunity right now. Mike, what do you think?
What's first of all, is he on his last year of his contract, Lowry? What's he making?
I believe he is.
Yeah, I think he is too. He's making nice change.
And he's scoring 17, 18, 12. He's still scoring some points, isn't he? Last time I checked, he was up there.
Yes.
Okay, so he's 35, 34, maybe 33, 34.
They all come in at 19 years old. 20
yeah,
years
man.
old,
I mean, look, I don't know what he's right. I don't know what he's making, but if he's on his last year of his contract,
$33 million.
Oh wow, really?
Yes, 33.
Oh wow, I never would have guessed that.
You see that? Yeah, Kyle's making $33 million, man.
So he's got some heavy coin, right? So somebody's gonna have to, make some
pony up.
You're gonna have to pony up, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know what they're thinking of doing. Maybe just dumping a salary or why. I don't know why he's even being considered for trade. I don't know what's good. Probably right. Last year of the contract, everybody wants to dump salary. So it could be a fit. It could be a nice little rental, and then maybe you can buy him back cheap because he's older next year. Maybe give him
remember, it's the NBA, right? They're giving up like 2024 first-round picks now, right? So
that I would be the norm.
You're right.
That seems to be the norm. So yeah, talk about mortgaging the future. Why not? I mean, look, another veteran is obviously definitely needed, and if he's targeted, why not try to get him? What's it going to take to get him?
Well, that's the thing, and I'll be honest.
Like realistically.
Realistically, it's always going to center around a package. You're going to have to give up your young guys, which is definitely Matisse and it's definitely Tyrese Maxey. Going to have to. I mean, it's going to center around young, controllable talent. Has to be, right? That's how you make these deals work. And then you're going to trade a couple first-round picks. It's exactly what's going to happen. Now, for me personally, I love Matisse. I love the defensive effort, but Vance, you were spot on. I was hoping his offensive game was going to be more developed this year. And he wasn't this offensive monster in college. He was known to be a defensive guy. And it looks like maybe that's all he ever is going to be. So for me, I can move on from him. Maxey's a wild card. We don't know. He has the pedigree for Kentucky, right? He has the pedigree. You see what he can do. He's kind of hit a rookie wall. I'm not sure, Vance. What would you be willing to give up that kind of coin in order to get Kyle Lowry?
I think I'd be willing to give up one or the other. Not sure that I'll be willing to give up both for 1 year of Kyle Lowry. You got to figure you're going to be playing against Matisse and Tyrese Maxey if you do that, and your first round pick for the next however many years. And I just think that it would be a short-sighted move. I would give up a first round pick, I would give up a second, and I would give up either one of those guys, but I couldn't see myself giving up both.
That's a good point.
It's a heavy ask. Yeah, it's a heavy ask.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I want to know, first of all, why would the Raptors let him go? And second, how much would you have to give up to get? Well, the Raptors would let him go because they're not playing for anything, right? So, they're already paying Siakam a ton of money, right? So they already have a ton invested in that team. They're paying Van Vliet, who's really, everybody was like, oh, they paid him a lot of money. Well, he's showing why, right? So Kyle, we know, is not going to be here. Kyle's not going to re-sign with Toronto. So it makes sense for them to move on from him to get something controllable as an asset for the future. So
get something on the way out the door and dump the money now.
But don't you have to match? Because Matisse and they don't make enough money.
No. So Danny Green.
That's where Mike Scott would probably come in.
That's it, Mike Scott. Yep.
Yeah, but it's Mike Scott's making how much?
So money doesn't have to match dollar for dollar. It has
to be close though.
Percentage. has to fall within a certain percentage. So if you're sending Ferk and Mike Scott, you know, and a first round pick, then maybe that's enough to get it done. I'm not exactly sure what their contracts are, but doesn't have to match dollar for dollar.
And I'm pretty sure there's in the NBA there's a trade exception, which is a dollar amount as well.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yeah, right.
So don't the Sixers have a trade exemption or something like that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I noticed, and they got that from
Al Horford.
Al Horford, yeah,
right.
Exactly.
At least they got something for that.
Yeah. Yo, Al's been balling now, man.
Of course he is, because he's not playing for us. We already know that was going to happen. Yeah. It's automatic. As soon as we already knew that was going to happen.
I love it. JD says, Oracle says, don't sell, stay patient. Christian Chicken on YouTube, Chris Cabrera. Embiid, sleeper MVP. I like that, Christian.
Yeah, I like a sexy pick.
I like that. I'll tell you what, man. I don't know. I don't know. I think there's so many people in the running this year. It's going to be interesting. I tell you that. We'll see how they can continue. I mean, Jokic is unbelievable. And one thing about Jokic is he gives you the dimes more than Embiid gives you, right?
That's for sure.
Right? Exactly. So, Donovan Mitchell has to be considered in the MVP conversation. Seth Curry, or Seth, not Seth. Seth Curry. Now, it's certainly not Seth.
Seth?
Has to be considered, right? Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you what, man, I know he's not in the top three. Chris Paul has to get some consideration for what he's been able to do out there in Phoenix and turn that team around. So, MVP, most valuable player, without Chris Paul, the Phoenix Suns are nobody. So, you have to put him in the conversation as well. But Joel Embiid, dang, MVP. Do you think Joel Embiid, if he continues on this tear, which he seems to be unstoppable, give you 30 whenever he wants, should it be in consideration? And do you think, well, obviously he's in consideration, but you think he could actually win the MVP?
I don't know how these voters think. Obviously, when he could be the best player on the planet. That's how good he is. But you mentioned a handful of names that if they get it, you can't go crying that Joel didn't get it. And let's face it. I mean, we just saw how Ben and Tobias don't make the All-Star team. There still could be this animosity towards the Sixers for the whole tanking thing. They could still be holding a grudge. I mean, a couple years ago, I thought there was no way that Jokic should have been number one center, all first team NBA center over Joel. I was outraged over that. And, so who knows? Could he easily get it and deserve it? Absolutely. But, I wouldn't have any expectations the way politics are.
So my buddy Bill says Embiid hurt his opportunity to get the MVP by missing big games.
He missed a lot of games, man. A lot.
Last night. I have
with the day off after this game. So that bothered me too.
See, it didn't bother me, honestly. Right. And honestly, Vance, and people right away, I'll be honest with you, because people know how I think. So before the final judgment day, Bray says to me, he says, I know you're going to talk about Embiid missing the game. And I'm like, no, I'm actually not. Because he knows the way I think. And I'm like, I was shocked that he was even probable. I'm like, wait a minute. They're off for 5 days. It's the last game of a West Coast trip. No way he's playing. So, I mean, listen, even though last night was an important game to me, I called it a must-win at this point of the season from a chemistry standpoint. I think they did win, even though they lost. But what I will say is, this is a marathon, man. The NBA is a marathon. You don't win in your first 20 games is not going to make what you do in the playoffs. I need Joel to be healthy in order to compete for that number one spot. So this game, Vance, it didn't bother me at all.
Okay, so what if LeBron and Embiid go all the way and Embiid continues to keep missing games the way that he does? LeBron doesn't miss any, and you have them neck and neck in terms of stats. Who do you give it to? Or how do you even justify giving it to Embiid when you have LeBron never misses any games? And I'm not for either player. I'm just
LeBron sits out a lot.
Yeah. That's a good point. I don't know. Vance, what do you think?
Here's my thing, man. I'm going to say something that might be controversial.
That's all right.
When LeBron shoved Joel Embiid and pushed him on his back, he pretty much pushed him out of the MVP conversation right there.
Ooh, I like that.
I like that.
That's a great point, Vance.
LeBron looked at him, didn't even bother to help him up. He knew exactly what he was doing at the time.
What was that, by the way? That was crazy.
I think it was what Vance just said it was.
Yeah, it was crazy. So that's my hot take on that, guys. He literally shoved him out of the MVP race when he did that because Joel has always had back problems, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
You know, a 7'2" guy, almost 300 pounds, falling on his back like that, you know, with nobody there to catch him, you know, that pretty much shoved him out of the MVP race to me. But that's okay. You know, I think that's just going to light, you know, Joel's fire even more.
You're right. And Mike, Scotty agrees with you. He says, I agree with that, Tony. But when LeBron plays every game, it's hard to argue that. And real fast, Al says the national writers won't vote for Joe because he's missing to making games. He's missing 4 or more. He has no shot. I mean, it looks like, but to win MVP, other teams and fans have to see it that way. True. It looks like this missing games thing, Dan, is the sticking point to this MVP talk.
Yeah, but here's my solution. Play him 20. Just have him on a pitch count. If you're play him 20 minutes against Portland, so we can play 20 minutes against Utah. Play him in spots. You don't have to completely sit him out of a game with a long rest afterwards. That's my solution.
Well,
if you have a compact little schedule with you're in a West, play him in spots. I hate the missing a game stuff. I hate it. Just play. I'd rather see him play 2 games of 20 minutes than 1 game of 38 minutes and then miss the next game.
See, I used to think like that. Honestly, I'll tell you what. I used to be the biggest opponent of the load management thing. I really did. But then I looked at it and said, listen, this game that we're playing right now is completely different. Somebody made a great point about Ben Simmons, and I forget who it was. I apologize. It was on Twitter. It might have been Jessica Town. I'm not sure. But made a great point about Ben having the guard, the best player on the other team, up and down the court, has the hardest job on the court. That dude, that's like running for 80 minutes instead of 40.
That's a good point.
Right? So it's and it made me think, you know what? Like, if this is a different style, this isn't a half-court game. This isn't Dennis Johnson, getting the ball out of bounds or Robert Parrish or walking off the court and setting up a half-court set, right?
No.
I'm like, you like that reference? But I mean,
Parrish reference. I like that.
The cheat. But, I mean, so I used to think like that, Dan, but I get it now. We need these guys to be healthy for the postseason. And if that means 20 games or 15 games, whatever, as long as he's there come playoff time, I'm good, man. I'm good because I'll tell you what, this team, you need to be able to win games without Joel Embiid. And the only way you can learn how to win games without Joel Embiid is if you play without Joel Embiid. So I want you to learn that now, not in the playoffs. Right. That's my take.
They could. I mean, if Ben Simmons, if he played 60 to 70% of how he played last night, they would be in every game without Embiid. I mean, that was just flat out dominating. So, I mean, it's possible.
It was.
But you know what? You know what's funny, and I could be off base here. I was a little upset with Doc last night. Jordan Clarkson was killing us. Oh. Why wasn't Matisse put on him almost instantly? Yeah, Curry was guarding him for a large majority of that, and it was like ridiculous.
Just get killed.
Matisse should have been in his grill after the second made 3. So that's the value I see in Matisse. His defense is off the charts good, and I think you're going to rue the day if he leaves because I think he is going to develop a shot. I really do, and I think he's. I don't know. I've got this spot for that kid.
Larry Brown would have put up with that.
Hey Dan,
Larry Brown would have stuck George Lynch on him.
Yeah.
You're right.
He would have.
Yes.
But Clarkson was killing us more than Donovan Mitchell last night.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, 40 points.
Yeah. And where was the answer for him?
I wonder why a reporter, that's a great point, Dan. How come nobody asked these questions? I just feel like they don't, I don't know. Maybe it's this press conference. Yeah. You know why. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like I have to say it, but yes, we all know why, don't we?
Hey, Dan. So my opinion last night where Doc missed the boat is in the second quarter. Where that game got away is when he kept Ben and Tobias on the bench for way too long and let the Jazz come back and take the lead. Sixers never recovered from that.
Yeah.
You don't have Joel. Those guys got to play as much as possible.
And isn't it also, Tone and Vance and Mikey? Isn't it obvious when Korkmaz is off?
Oh,
when he's off, get him out.
It's
So
bad.
don't force minutes on us with that guy.
That-
When he's on, you can tell he's on. Just get him out.
I think
you know what the problem is, and we'll end the Sixer segment on this with Cork. My man Cork. He threw down a couple dunks. All of a sudden, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, he thinks he's Zach Levine. Like, relax, cuz. Seriously. And then he gets exposed. He gets completely exposed. You know what Korkmaz is? We've all had it. We've all played our blacktop games, our pickup games, and we all had little Mikey, no pun intended. We all had little Mikey on the court say, Mike, do me a favor. Just stand outside and wait for the penetration and shoot. That's it. That's what Korkmaz is. That's it. I don't need the dribble drives. I don't need you to act like you can dribble between the legs. Like, this ain't NBA Jam, man. Just stick to what you know. Stick outside and shoot. So
it's funny you say that because you said no offense, but that's exactly who I was because I couldn't play at all. They just stuck me in the corner. Like, dude, if you get it, just throw it up.
Kevin Jones checking in. What's up, Kev? Says Joe deserves more minutes. Sit Cork. And that's another thing we talked about. And I'd like to see Isaiah Joe get in the game last night. Yeah. I think he has to develop more. Obviously, he's only a rookie, but I would listen, if he can, he's developing a nice shot. He's in as a shooter. Right. So I would much rather see him than Cork. I think he gives you more of a chance than Korkmaz. So Korkmaz,
he's got to go, and the shoe game goes too.
The hair, the shoe, and all. But everything's got to go. Even though he was probably the only one on the court last night, didn't have something go on with Kendall Jenner. But that's another. Just saying. Jordan.
We're not going to start with the Kardashian and the Jenners. I'm just saying,
Jordan Clarkson, Ben Simmons. You know what I mean? And she's worked her way around the NBA a little bit. Just saying, but
just a little bit,
just a little bit.
She's a nice girl. She's a nice girl.
Yeah, she is. I'm not saying no disrespect. Just saying she's been with a bunch of guys in the NBA. That's all.
She's very friendly.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, man. But tomorrow, big day, pitchers and catchers for baseball. Okay, this is a baseball kind of show tonight. We're going to talk a little Phils. I love the shirt.
I like that, man. Very nice.
Love the shirt. So, and we're going to start this off with a trivia question. And I like these trivia questions, get people thinking. Again, don't Google this. Okay, this is another good one. So we're starting off our segment with this. Which slugger became the youngest player ever to reach 500 home runs?
Oh, wow.
So think about that for a minute and see if somebody can get that. And also, don't forget, you guys, Flyer and Ice Pod, that's still going on for the Carter Hart Retro shirt?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, so don't forget, Flyer and Ice Pod, get on there, retweet, like at Fire and Ice, at Fire and Ice Pod, at Heat Ratio Sports. Retweet that out and get your chance to win a really, really nice Carter Hart Retro Flyer shirt. So we're going to have that stuff too for these trivia questions. So which slugger became the youngest player ever to reach 500 home runs? So let's get right into the Phillies talk as we think about that for a little bit. And pitchers and catchers tomorrow. I think the Phillies story has been very, very understated throughout this entire offseason. Rightfully so, because of all the other sports taking precedence. But they've quietly had a really good offseason so far. I still think there's a couple more low-level moves to make. But what I really want to get into, because obviously JT had to be done. We get him. He's there. That's the mainstay, right? We get Didi back. Huge. All right. We still have to figure the center fielder spot out. But what I want to ask you guys specifically is about two players to me that are probably the most important to really come in their own. And that's Alec Bohm and that's Zac Eflin. A bat and an arm. And I want to ask you guys, number one, about Bohm. Now, here's the funny thing about Bohm. I'm a baseball card collector. And I know for a fact that when certain cards start to pick up fire, it's just like when you see a betting capper say, that game's going to be the overs 240. You're like, I got to get a couple fancy guys in there. Well, Alec Bohm cards are skyrocketing right now. Now, last year he had 338 in a shortened season, only 44 games, but he only with a hitless 10 out of those 44, and he had 18 multi-hit games, which shows me this kid can swing the bat. Shaky glove, but from what you read, is he's got the eye of the tiger, no pun intended, the Rocky Balboa. But what he does is he's the Philadelphia kind of athlete. He works his ass off, so to speak. And it sounds like he's really putting in some work with the glove. So, Dan, let me go. You're our resident baseball guy right here. So, Alec Bohm, to you, how important is he? And number two, where can you see the potential for him within this lineup for the Phillies team?
Well, it's funny. Vance and I were having a long conversation about this, not knowing what exactly the topics were. We were just talking Phillies baseball.
I love
it. And I love Bohm, but I will, and Vance kind of, put some thoughts in my head. Think of how many balls he torched to the left side of the field. He flared a lot of balls to right field last year. So you could argue that he needs to really work on his, strength, bat speed, but then you could argue he's getting to learn major league pitching. It's a whole different animal than the minor leagues, and just putting the ball in play has got to build confidence. I'm going to go somewhere in the middle. He's got to show me some pull power, and that part of his game needs to be developed. He's 6'5". He's going to put some mass on as he gets older. He's a third baseman. Those need to be power numbers. Yeah. So, but if he's a consistent gap hitter at this stage of the game, he'll probably be seventh in the batting order, 6th, 7th in the batting order.
That's wow.
It's kind of deep.
I'm 6, right? 5 or 6.
We could go. Well, or they could use him in the second hole. You know how they sometimes put guys that in the second hole. But if he's not in the second hole, Didi was the most prolific RBI guy last year.
True.
JT, Didi, they love Reese Hoskins for some reason. You're not going to bury him in the lineup, and you got Harper, and whoever's leading off. So 6 or 7, I'm thinking.
Well, are you still going to have Kutch leading off this year? I would think so, right?
Probably, yeah. So Segura probably hitting second.
Yep, Harper third.
JT.
So there you go. Here's
Reese DD.
Right. Bomb. Well, number 5, I think is the part, because listen, I'm not a huge Reese Hoskins guy.
Me neither.
Right. So for me, I mean, this could be the money spot for Bohm at number 5 if Reese shows he's not ever going to develop that swing once again and be consistent. Vance, I see you shake your head. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think Bohm is the best hitter on the team. So you normally put your best hitter 3.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
I go with 3, 4, 5 of right, left, right with Bohm, Bryce Harper, and JT Realmuto. That's my opinion.
I like that. And then so you're going Kutch, you're going Segura, and then you're going to go Bohm, Harper, JT.
So I think I'm going to go Kutch. I'm going to go Reese Hoskins second, because he had the best eye on the team. And I think when he got hurt last year, he finished off at second, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was batting second when he got hurt. So it's Kutch, Reese, Bohm, Bryce, JT, DD, Segura.
I like that.
I don't mind it, but I could see them babying him at the early stages of this year. You think they're going to throw him right in a 3 spot?
I think so, Dan. Here's the sign of a good hitter. A good hitter hits the ball to all fields. That's what the great hitters do, and that's what Bohm did all year last year. Like we talked about earlier, he didn't have the power, but a lot of those young guys don't have the power. Those numbers come, as they get a little bit older. But the guy hits the ball consistently. In my opinion, he's the best hitter on the team by far. So you have to put him in at 3.
I like that. I mean, listen, it's a great analysis because, and I'll tell you, if Bohm turns into the number 3 hitter on this team legitimately, we're gonna have a scary lineup. Honestly, I really feel that way. Now, go ahead, Mike. What do you got, buddy?
Just consider this, okay? I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade, but I'm just trying to give you the fan thought, okay? And
Yeah,
maybe,
man,
maybe I'm a little bit too cynical, okay? But just think about this. So who was undoubtedly the greatest third baseman in the history of the Phillies is Mike Schmidt, right? We can all agree on that.
Yes.
Well, I don't know, Dan. So it's not Scott Rowland?
The best fielding third baseman was Scott Rowland.
Go ahead, Mike. I had to throw that in.
That's fine. He may be right, but anyway. So the next great third baseman was who?
Rick Shue?
Charlie Hayes. Dave Hollins.
Okay, I got someone better for you. Cody Ash.
Ooh.
Say why?
He was supposed to be the next coming, right?
Okay,
so now I'm not saying Bohm is not great. He's not. Obviously, he's very, very talented. Okay, but remember,
first round pick versus Ash was
true. I get you, but remember, he's got big shoes to fill. He walks by. It's the whole Wentz walking by. We're not allowed to say Wentz tonight. I'm sorry. He walks by the full statue, right? So the Schmidt statue's out there at Citizens Bank. All I'm saying is the expectations for this kid cannot be higher. They're super, super high, and he's feeling it. So just want to, put the brakes on a little bit. Just a little bit.
But getting back to Tone's point, though, and kind of yours, too, he could easily be switched to first base if they decide to move on from Reese. Maybe Reese does something, and they move him for pitching. Bohm becomes your first baseman. Because he's not a great glove.
That's a good point, because what happens then? Bohm goes to first, who plays third could be Segura, and then come up at short is Bryson Stott, right? So, there's the evolution of the Phillies.
The configurations, because they need pitching. And Reese, actually, we hope Reese does well because he could be a chip again.
So let's talk about pitching, and let's talk about Zac Eflin, because let's make no mistake about it that the Phillies are, I said this earlier, they are in the toughest division in the National League, and maybe, quite frankly, Major League Baseball. This is a really, really tough division. And when you're hitching your wagon on Nola and Wheeler, you have to have 3 deep. And Zac Eflin, if you look at his numbers, he's actually gotten better over the last year every 4. Or I should say better over the last 4 years every single year. If you look at from a number standpoint, his ERA has been down, his Ks per 9 go up. Okay, so he's developing. Now, the question is, can he develop? I know it was only 4-2. It was a shortened season. He pitched 10 games, but can he develop into that number 3 guy that we need to compete with Washington and the Mets and the Braves? Can he be that guy? I'm going to go on a limb, and I think he can be. I think Zac Eflin is going to have a really good year this year. This is my hot take. Okay, this isn't as good as Vance's LeBron take, but I'll tell you what. I honestly think that Zac Eflin can win you 13 to 14 games this year. I don't think that's an issue. I think he could go somewhere like 13-7 or 13-8. I could see Eflin going with a 3.85 ERA and striking out anywhere between 7 to 8 Ks per 9. And if he does that at the number 3 spot, I think we got something here, boys.
Why can he do that? Why would he be able to show that kind of consistency? Just out of curiosity. I'm curious on the way you think.
Well,
look at his whip.
Yeah, I was just going to say his whip number has gone down over the last 4 years. It started at 1.61. Last year was 1.27. So
and it's above average.
Right. If you 1.0 is Cy Young territory.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he's worked with better pitching coaches over the last few years, especially last year. Right. So he's developing finally, I think, his delivery. He had a problem staying healthy for the first couple of years. He's finally found. Dan, I think he's a 4-pitch pitcher now, correct? I think he originally was only 3. I think he has 4 now.
I think he came up with a splitter.
Right. So, and that's a huge pitch, especially for a big guy like that who has that over-the-top delivery. So I think, Mike, it's just with a pitcher, especially for the Phillies.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, for a pitcher to develop, it just take him extra time to develop, and I think he's finally getting that consistency. It's a shame it was a short season because I think last year would have been really good for him.
No, Gabe Kapler didn't do him any favors.
Well,
he didn't do anyone any favors.
No, yeah, he definitely did. Well,
but it's fun. Unfortunately, Tony, if you look beyond those 3, Chase Anderson and Matt Moore, talk about whip. They're in the 1.6 range.
Yeah.
So, and Vince isn't even in the talk right now as a top in the top, in the bottom of the rotation. So, yeah, that's what concerns me. They need to get that fourth guy.
Yeah, they definitely do, and hopefully, listen. Usually, a team would develop that fourth guy. Unfortunately, our farm system is hurting right now. But one thing I want to say is, and our man Dan checking in, and I'm glad he brought this up because I differ completely with this. Dan, love you, buddy. He says, I know most people will say he's a shitty human, but I'm kind of hoping Odubel wins out of the center job. You know what? Screw Odubel Herrera. I don't even think he deserves a minor league contract. Okay, I'm being honest.
Dan doesn't like that. Dan doesn't like that. Look at Dan's face.
Now, here's the thing. If we as society are going to take a stand on domestic violence, how do we continue to make exceptions for overpriced athletes? We cannot do this. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear the excuses. It happened. We know what happened. And I get everybody gets second chances, but here's the problem. Certain situations, in my opinion, don't deserve a second chance. You have a second chance in society. You don't need a second chance in Major League Baseball. Okay? If you guys are going to have a movement and you guys are going to say, listen, this is the way that this is the we are practicing what we preach, that you do not let these guys back in. You keep guys like Ray Rice out. And no offense, you keep guys like Joe Mixon out. Okay? Because that stuff is documented. That stuff is
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill's another one. This topic curls up my spine. It does. I have my daughter is 20 years old, and I swear to God I would go to jail for her at any day of the week. Okay. And my opinion is when I see stuff like that, it's a disgrace. And I feel like, guess what? If any one of us would do that at our job tomorrow, we're not coming back. We're not coming back. Right? These guys should not have the same opportunity. So I'm sorry. No disrespect to anybody out there. That's just me, man. That's my personal feeling. I hate that he even is getting any kind of airplay right now for being a baseball player. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Sorry, guys. Just
tell us how you really feel about the situation.
I just can't with him, man. I can't.
It's not funny, but you remember when Brett Myers was caught hitting his wife in public?
That was a big story.
Yeah.
That was a big story.
It was forgotten quickly, though.
And that's a shame, man. And
I don't think it's forgotten today. I think today it's different. I mean, I hate to say that. I mean, it's never different. It's this very, very serious thing.
No, you're right. But unfortunately, it still comes down to wins and losses. If Tyreek Hill somehow got released because of contract issues, you don't think teams would be lining up to pick him up?
Yeah. Well, I think he almost.
And what would we be talking about if Tyreek was available and the Eagles had the salary cap to sign him? What would we be saying? Be honest.
Well, it sends a horrible message to obviously to kids. I mean,
no, it does.
Terrible.
But because he's been in the league for 3 years already, and no one forgets about it because we're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
But it's not just it's an issue with it's if you're good at something, you always seem to get second chances. Is the point? Now, is Odubel worthy of getting a second chance based on his? If Odubel was Bryce Harper, if Bryce Harper, I don't want to disparage Bryce's name, but if Bryce did something like this, he wouldn't have got kicked out of baseball. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, man.
Who knows?
Talent.
I mean, my point is, it shows you that no matter if you are, and I know what you're saying, Bryce Harper's a superstar, right? I get it. And you know what? And maybe Odubel's not a superstar. Love it. Love that. So my whole point is this has got to be a case closed policy, man. I don't care if you're the last guy on the bench, if you're a minor league player, you cannot stand up to domestic violence and allow abusers into your league. Just can't do it. Kareem Hunt should have never donned a uniform again. I don't care what I listen, I'll be honest with you. I will not cheer for Kareem Hunt. I don't give a shit how good he is. I won't. And you know what? That's their fault. So I give you a funny story. You mentioned Tyreek Hill. And now I'm going off on the tangent. I apologize. But you mentioned Tyreek Hill. And when Tyreek Hill shoved Greg Lewis in that video, okay, you guys know what I'm talking about on the sideline. And I tweeted something out like, all I said was not, I don't know if I said not surprised or somebody tweeted something out. And I was basically saying, well, it's based on his reputation. And somebody, kind of came at me and I was like, listen, man, that's his fault. Don't blame me.
Right.
Okay. Don't blame me. That's his bed. He lies in it now. Okay. We're not making judgments. This is documented situations. Okay. So you can't let people, I'm sorry. If that's the case, then what you're saying is a fraud. So what you're saying is a fraud. If you're going to donate to domestic violence, but you're going to let abusers
do you really think the league gives a shit?
What do you mean?
They care about money, dude. They don't care.
I know, but they
care about money.
It's a fraud.
They're all like that. They all say they want to stand up for all these causes. At the end of the day, the only thing they give a shit about is revenue. Well, it's all bullshit.
No, I know.
I agree with you. 100% I agree with you.
I know.
But you know what? How do some guys get away with it and some don't?
I don't know, man.
What happened to Ray Rice? You never saw him again.
Got blackballed out of the league, bro.
Well, yeah, because his was on video. That's what really destroyed him.
So was Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, true. Kareem Hunt was on video.
No, and Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's was.
That's another one.
Yeah, Joe Nixon knocked the girl out of the pizza parlor. No, I agree with you. I'm astonished. I'm drawing a blank on Kareem Hunt's video.
And look at this. I apologize. Who's the offensive lineman that just beat the shit out of his girlfriend?
Yeah.
I always seem to draft these people too all the time. There's some sort of issue. There's always a hole in the roster because of some bonehead. It's always the case. But dude, don't sit here and say that the league cares because they don't care about anything but money.
No, I know they don't care. What I'm saying is, don't speak up and say that you care. That's all.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, you're right.
All right, let's get back to
baseball.
But Tom, what do you think of Jake Odorizzi?
He used to be one of my favorite fantasy picks.
As a 4.
He's available. Minnesota, right? Was he in Minnesota last year?
Yeah. He's as our number 4. Give him a 1-year deal.
I would take him.
He's out there. He's out there.
I would definitely take him. 100%. I'm mad that we missed the boat on Charlie Morton a few years ago.
Yeah.
Because we actually were trying to sign him and he didn't come here. Right, so it would have been great. We had him, and then he tore his hamstring while pitching with us. Oh yeah, we did that.
And he was like a garbage pickup. And I'm watching this guy. He's throwing 95 with a fastball that's bearing in on right-handed batters. Going, oh my god! And then he tears his hamstring, and they don't even consider looking into him.
Tampa Bay, right? He went to Tampa Bay after us, I think.
He went to Houston afterwards.
Houston.
Yeah, he flourished with Houston right away.
And was like a Cy Young candidate, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, man. I'm sweating, man.
As usual.
Domestic abuse, man. I'm sweating. Man, that shit pissed me off, man. That shit pisses me off.
Hey, for the record, it wasn't this Dan that brought it up, right? It was the other day.
What's up, Vance?
So what do you think about Jackie Bradley? We talked
yes.
Bradley a little bit too.
I love Jackie Bradley. I mean that he solves your center field problem right there.
Exactly.
We're talking, right? Now we don't have to watch the Adam Hazley experiment in center field, right? Like, please, no, Adam Hazley. No. I love Jackie Bradley. If there's a way we get Jackie Bradley on this team, I think he fixes everything. And not only that, he helps a 34, 35-year-old left fielder get some breaks when he needs it as well, right? So let's be honest, because Kutch can't play 162. So, Kutch, if you give Kutch 100 games, I think that's fantastic. I mean, I think he'll be really good for you. And Jackie Bradley, man, whoo.
As long as the Mets don't get him.
Well, the Mets, this is the offseason of the Mets who think they're going to get everybody. They get no one. So,
the Mets did good, too.
What's that?
I said the Mets did good this offseason.
Yeah, they did, but it was funny. I think they thought they were going to get JT Realmuto, and they didn't get him.
But they jumped on McCann right away. It seemed like.
They jump on McCann. They did. They did. Well, the Mets always had a pitching too, man. That pitching staff. I mean, it just seems like they build one pitcher.
And wait till Syndergaard comes back, right?
Yeah,
Syndergaard's waiting in the weeds.
Yep.
And Carrasco is underrated too. I mean,
former Philly.
Carrasco's an underrated pitcher.
He definitely is. When he went to Cleveland, he found his stride, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we got Cliff Lee for him.
He did in Cleveland what we wanted him to do here, right? So
yeah.
It's amazing.
Maybe the Mets won't sign him since Stephen Cohen got buried on GameStop stock. He lost like what, 3-4 billion from the Reddit traders.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Steve Cohen was in that. He was the guy that basically had to bail out that hedge fund. They lost $4 billion or something from all the Reddit traders with GameStop.
That was a crazy story, man. I couldn't even understand half of that, but it just wow.
It's very simple. So what they did was they found a stock that had a very low float, and they all were on Reddit. Like, all these people are on Reddit, and they're all saying, let's just buy up the available stock, okay? And then we'll squeeze the big hedge fund that was betting that the price would go down. So they just kept buying it, and they put them in a situation where they had to sell their shares because they were getting squeezed. They're thinking that it was going to go the other way, but it kept going up. So in order for them to delever their position, they started selling, and the price kept going up and up and up, and they couldn't do anything. They squeezed billions out of the head. They almost collapsed the hedge fund, and it was Cohen that had to write a check of $4 billion to keep them going because they would have went totally bankrupt.
Wow.
And then they stopped all the Robinhood traders from making trades. So as soon as Wall Street knew that the little guys were beating them up, they just, they blocked all the trades and they squeezed them, and they lost all money. So the whole freaking game is rigged. It's crazy, but he took a beating, that dude. So maybe Bradley will not be signed by the Mets because of that.
Yeah, maybe our boy Dombrowski can make some waves for us, man.
Well, as Vance said to me, there's a connection between the two.
Yeah, obviously. Boston, absolutely right. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I'm very surprised about Dombrowski. I didn't think that he was going to come here and be able to make moves. I thought he was going to be hamstrung by upper management, even though he is technically the president of the team. But I just didn't think that they were going to make moves like that. And he's been, listen, he has the pedigree and he has the reputation of making these kind of moves. Obviously, his real reputation is trading young talent. Basically, deleting the farm system, which we don't have anyway. But at least he was able to re-sign JT and that and Didi. They were two big moves. But man, Jackie Bradley Jr. to get back to that would be unbelievable. I don't know. He's still sitting out there, right?
Jake and Jackie. Let's make a poster and walk it down.
Yeah, not Jake Arrieta. He already went to Chicago.
No more.
Jake Aderizi, and Jackie Bradley. That'll fill my card out for me.
I like that. So let's get back. Which slugger become the youngest player ever to reach 500 home runs? So before we go on to hip hop a little bit, Dan, do you have a guess?
Well, do you want? I saw some of your viewers already, or some of our viewers already put some answers up.
And the one is right. So that's all.
The three that came to mind instantly were A-Rod, Jr., and Pujols.
Yes, and it was Alex Rodriguez. My boy E-Bomb got it correct.
When he came up as a 19-year-old. Well,
right. Yeah. So 32 years old. 32 years old is when he hit his 500 home run. And I don't care about what anybody says, roids or not, A-Rod is a Hall of Famer. So we'll get into that another day. Okay, but we're about 1 hour and 2 minutes. We stick to an hour and 15, so we have 13 minutes left. Mike, we tried 20, but domestic violence took precedence for a little bit.
Understood.
We're going to get right into a little hip-hop because we love to talk hip-hop on the show. And one thing that came to me today, because, again, I do a lot of publicity work, and I noticed that 28 years ago was the anniversary of All Eyes on Me by the infamous Tupac Shakur. And Tupac, for me, one of my favorite, if not the favorite rappers of all time. And the question I want to get this into is he a rapper or is he an MC? And when we talk about the GOATs, there are many different styles of MC and rap, right? So to me, are you a rapper or are you a lyricist? So I don't know what genre Tupac would fall into. Mike, I know you are my hip hop guy. Me and you are the hip hop team, man. We go back and forth with this. For me, when we talk about GOATs, my GOAT number one is Jay-Z. A lot of people will come back to me about the Biggie and the Tupac. But let me just explain to you why I say Jay-Z is because Jay-Z to me, I said this earlier, he changed the culture of the game like AI changed the culture of the NBA. Jay-Z had his first own record label. Jay-Z had the merchandise with the Rockaware. Jay-Z bought the business. So Jay-Z is the Mongol that everybody strived to be. So he changed the game to me, which is why to me, all around Jay-Z is the GOAT. So Mike, Tupac, where does he fall? Rapper, MC, and who's your GOAT?
Okay, well, he's a rapper. I mean, I don't know if I want to see. I just feel like the MCs are the KRS ones, right? You know, that to me, he was an MC. Curtis Blow was an MC. All right. I mean, but Tupac was a rapper, you know, and Biggie was a rapper. And where does he land on the GOAT list? Tupac, I would say probably, top 5. But, you know, for me to be put on the spot, it would be tough. Biggie is number 1 for me. He's definitely the GOAT. I would say he's the GOAT. And again, I'm not, you know, I was an Eminem fan for some of his earlier stuff. But, you know, when Biggie, you have to understand, at the time that Biggie came out, rap was totally dominated. It was Dre. It was all of everything that was happening on the West Coast. So it was all Dre. It was NWA. It was Dre. Then it was Snoop, and then it was the Dog Pound, and then it kind of like, you know, 94, 95 was kind of quiet, and then all of a sudden between 93 and 95, Biggie was starting, but then it was like the Wu-Tang was sort of bringing it back to the East Coast, and then Biggie was 94, 95, I think, was ready to die, and then after that, I mean, it's pretty much history. So I don't know. Biggie to me was the best. That was the best beats. They were the best lyrics, and it was unlike anything anybody's ever heard or will hear again. But Tupac definitely, dude, definitely a top 5. I didn't like a lot of Tupac stuff before he went to the West Coast. When he got behind the West Coast beats with DJ Quick and with Dre and with everybody else, that was just a whole nother style.
True.
That's where I stand.
That's true. Well, it's funny you mentioned because Pac had that interesting style. You know, I think of voices to me that make me think about guys that separate from others. Like one for me is Noriega. I was a big component Noriega guy. Love Nori, right? Nori had that specific brand in his voice. Listen, guy, even later on in Ja Rule had the specific, you know, that style that didn't make him a top GOAT, but it just made him very marketable. But Vance, when I listen, I remember Tupac to me, Brenda's Got a Baby. I could sing that word, that those lyrics word for word, and which that to me is what symbolized Tupac because he told a story in an entire song. And for you know, I used to get arguments with people like, rap music, all they do is it's beats. Nah, man, listen. Go back, because that was always my argument. Please listen to that song. And that dude is telling a story from beginning to end and made everything go in sync. So that's why, to me, Tupac is one of my greats. What do you think, Vance?
Tupac, to me, transcended rap. He was bigger than a rapper. When you talk about Tupac, you're talking about somebody that started off dancing. You're talking about a movie star, you know, played in, 2 or 3 different movies.
What was it? It was Juice. Above the Rim.
I forgot about
what was the one with Jada?
He played
Poetic Justice.
Poetic Justice, yeah.
So a lot of times when people think about Tupac, they think about him as an artist, but he was a great actor. He was great in Juice. He was great in the other movies. Yeah, some of Tupac's songs, man, like I Ain't Mad at You. You talking about storytelling? Like in my opinion, that's a top 5 rap song of all time. In my opinion.
That was a great song, man.
It's a great song. You know, Dear Mama.
Dear Mama. Yeah.
Hail Mary, I Get Around. Like these are that no matter what age you are.
Yes.
Yeah. So many tears. Great one. I forgot about that one. Yep. Yeah. Excellent.
I'll tell you what. Me Against the World. That Me Against the World album was very underrated, man. That's an all-time great album.
I don't know if you guys remember this one. Do you remember the R&B artist John B?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
For me, him and Tupac. That song. Are you still down for me? Do you know that?
I didn't know we had a song with Tupac.
Oh my God, it's one of Tupac's best features.
What is it again?
It's called John B and Tupac. Are You Still Down?
I mean, I know John B, but I didn't know him and Tupac had a collab. I had no idea.
We have to check that out.
Tupac died, and it turned out to be a huge hit. So you got to check that one.
I love that.
Tupac had some other. I think we lost your audio.
Hey, Vance.
Yeah,
Vance, you're muted.
Huh. Wait, that's wait, hold on. How about now?
Oh my God! It's like you can tell it's doing it itself. He's not doing it.
All right, I'm back.
Some technical.
All right.
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
So
You gotta switch boxes.
Yeah.
I go Jay number one. Jay's got to be number one because you have to give it to him. I mean, unfortunately, Biggie passed before his time, but Jay's put in the work. And Jay's, like you said, Jay's transcended rap as well. He went from a street guy to a businessman.
Yes.
Secondly, I go Biggie because I'm always pro East Coast, even though Tupac is from New York. And third, Tupac is my third.
So I like because
can't argue with that.
You can't. I listen. All three of those guys, no matter what, they have absolutely advances right on. They've transcended the game in so many different areas. Now, the one guy I will say for the last 5 minutes here, a guy who died way too early.
Big L. I know where you're going.
No, not Big L, but Big L's a good one.
Okay.
It's Big Pun. So yeah. I'll tell you what, man. Like Big Pun, if he could have continued the way he could rhyme, wow. Like I honestly, a Big Pun it goes down, but obviously he's not a top 3 or top. Eminem's got to be up there just for the simple fact that listen, the way he would be able to tell a story, the amount of albums that he continued to come out with. Rakim, obviously, I mean he is the old school GOAT, right? KRS-One, who listen, another guy is Chuck D. Chuck D does never get enough credit. Chuck D was a rapper. Right, like a lyricist. Chuck D would just tell a story. Like he'd be sitting there. Like I love "He Got Game." It's one of my favorite songs of all time. But like just to hear, I mean, "Fear of a Black Planet" is one of the best albums ever.
Saw them live. 1986 at the Spectrum, Licensed to Ill tour, and Public Enemy opened for them. Nobody knew who they were. They came out to Yo Bum Rush the show. The S1Ws had the guns everywhere. They were shooting in the air. It was crazy, militant. But real quick, a Tupac collaboration that I think people forget about a lot is the one that he did with MC Breed. Do you remember that? Gotta get mine. You gotta get yours.
MC Breed.
MC Breed and Tupac. Tupac did a lot of these like odd collabs, when he was coming up. And this is like in between Digital Underground and before he went solo. So it was like, right before I Get Around and all that stuff came out. He did one with MC Breed. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it before.
Wow.
And I don't think MC Breed ever made anything ever again.
I'm good. Like I gotta get mine. You gotta get yours.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yep. Remember that one.
Wow.
Yeah, and an amazing beat, great production. It was a great track, and then that was the end of MC Breed, I think. But
what's up, man?
I was going to say, where does the Immortal Technique and Beanie Siegel fall into this category?
Look, Beanie Siegel.
Beanie Siegel.
Wow! I'll tell you what. Remember when Beanie Siegel came out? That was like the Beanie Siegel, Memphis Bleak. That was like that kind of era. Like Memphis Bleak. Right, he had a nice.
We're all tied into Jay-Z too, man.
Yeah.
And that was like early 2000s with the whole thing, the whole state property phase. I kind of tuned out a little bit at that time. I didn't really get into that stuff, when it went there.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, they were.
Well,
Freeway. I remember PD Crack.
Yeah,
PD Crack. What a great name, PD Crack.
And last but not least, while we're in that era, we can't leave out the Rough Riders, man. When DMX. I mean, the amount of listen, Philly girl Eve, right? When you got Eve. I mean, you had who else was in the Rough Riders came out? Who was that?
Dragon was in the Rough
Riders. Dragon.
Yeah,
the H12. That album was great. Oh yeah, man! God,
that's what Scott Storch was dialed into Eve, and that's how Storch met. That's how Storch connected with Dre, and then Storch went West Coast, and then the
rest is history.
The rest is history.
The rest is.
We're gonna get him on one night. We're gonna get him on.
It's funny because I got my hair cut on the weekend, and my buddy owns his own shop, and he just moved, and he's same age as us. He's a hip hop guy. Right. And he's got all vinyl covers throughout his entire barbershop. Wow. And I'm up there, and all I'm looking at is versus Gangstar, Moment of Truth.
Oh,
Then I'm
man.
looking at Tough Crew. Then I got Big Pie. I got Fat Joe. I got Wu-Tang, Enter the 36 Chamber. I got Genius, Liquid Swords. I got Raekwon, Only Built on Cuban Links. I'm like, wow, my God. Like, I just want to hit up Spotify right now and just jam out all day, man.
You just dropped like 8 out of the 10 best albums of all time right then and there, because the 90s were the golden age of hip hop. And I hate to sound like some old head, but I am an old head. But I will say that it's never going to be replicated. Never.
If it wasn't for A Tribe Called Quest and the 36 Chambers of Death by Wu-Tang, I wouldn't be a rap fan.
Yo,
that's for sure.
Ain't that the truth?
Yep.
Those are your go-tos. You know what? That's a really good point. What the two go-tos? Amazing. Tone, what are yours? What are your go-tos? Two of them, just off right up the top.
What are my two go-tos?
Gangstar's got to be in there somewhere.
What's that?
Gangstar's got to be in there.
Are we talking about albums?
You're going to throw in an album on. You're going to start it at the beginning. You're going to let it run. That's it.
My number one, it'll never change, is 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying.
Yeah, that's a great one.
From front to back, every single song on there is hot. I love it. I mean, it was just like track hit after hit after hit.
All right, so look up that album and look at the production on a lot of those beats, and you're going to see Storch's name all over that album.
You were saying that. You were absolutely saying that.
Crazy,
you're right.
Crazy.
And honestly, I'm going to tell you my number two is Big Pun, Capital Punishment. It's another classic album that goes track to track, man. It really is. And I listen, I'm a big Wu-Tang guy. I'm a big Gangstar guy. But those two albums for me, I can listen to them all day long.
So I'm going to go Tribe, Midnight Marauders, number one for me. I mean, that goes from the beginning. It goes all the way to the end. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I don't think it can ever be duplicated. And then the other one is just Life After Death with Biggie. Both CDs.
Double CDs. What
double CD.
Do you remember? Did you have a preference on one or two?
I liked one in the beginning when I first listened to it, and then I morphed into two, and now I like them equally. But if I had to pick, it would be two.
Yeah, there was a lot of good tracks on that, man. It really was. I remember waiting in line at the Tower Records down South Philly when they used to come out on Tuesdays, waiting in line to get that CD. Man, I was like, yo, I got to get the Biggie CD. That's when it comes out at 9 a.m. I lined up to get it, but that was a
So go Biggie. I would say Biggie 1, and the number 2 is Nas. Forgot. That's where I drew a blank at. And Illmatic would be something that I would throw in at the beginning. And there was only I think there was only 8 or 9 tracks on Illmatic. Was just crazy.
How do we not mention Nas?
I
man?
know. Disrespectful. Sorry, Nas.
But Jake, for you checking the main source. Oh, there's a main source.
Looking at the front door was great.
Oh,
that was a great track.
Unbelievable.
You treat me like a burnt piece of bacon. Best line on that whole track. Who throws that in the middle of a track?
I love it. I love it. Vance, what do you got? What are your go-tos?
So my go-to, my number one, you guys probably won't like this one too much, but it's The Blueprint by Jay-Z.
Oh, I love The Blueprint.
That's a great album.
Blueprint by Jay-Z. And my number 2 is, I'm going to go back to 36 Chambers of Death. I might have broke the tape listening to that thing.
Wu-Tang again? I love it. I love it.
I still, you know what? The greatest thing about Enter the 36 Chambers is if we had Method Man on our show and he broke off into Method Man, it would be like we were in the 90s again because he sounds exactly the same.
Jeez.
We'll never see
The Wire
Wu-Tang again, though.
What's that?
I said we'll never see anything like Wu-Tang again.
No.
Never.
I mean, just the amount of solo albums that came out from that crew. And not all of them were hits, by the way, but I mean, you even had Capadonna and You God come out with albums, right? Inspected Deck came out with an album. Inspected Deck has a great collab with Pete Rock. If anybody has ever heard that album, a fantastic album. That's another group, Pete Rock and CL Smooth. But one I will say, Dan, before I get to your go-tos, I gotta get to Dan before I get out of here. But one of the most classic go-to songs for me, I gotta say, song is got to be Renee. I can listen to Renee from the Lost Boys on loop every single day. I love that song. Love the remix. It's unbelievable. Dan, I know you're not. I don't know if you're a Renee fan, but what are your two go-tos? And listen, I know you're not a hip hop guy, so what's your two go-to albums, man? What do you? If you're listening, you're throwing it up. What you got?
I don't even know if this is in the category. I mean, if Mike's an old head, I mean, I'm like Methuselah. So, I was a teenager with Run DMC and the Beastie Boys.
Oof.
So,
Yep.
all this stuff is over my head, man.
It's not true, man. I was a big King of Rock fan when I was when I was in grade school.
All right, so all right, so I was I was a teenager during those years, and maybe I was probably in my 20s with the Beastie Boys. So,
listen, that was, I mean, I'll tell you, man. I'm with you, man. Run DMC with Jam Master Jay, I mean, that is just historic, right? But I've always said, like, I love going back to that time because when we talk about, I say the ladies of rap, female hip hop lyricists, for me, nobody can even hold a candle to MC Lyte. So I love when I go back to MC Lyte and listen, because you want to talk about authentic and you want to talk about a voice that she can still do right now. I mean, no disrespect to Queen Latifah, no disrespect to people like Lil' Kim and Foxy, right? But
Moni Love.
Moni Love, exactly. Like, people even forget about Moni. Like, my Lord. Like, it's just we could do it. We just got to do a music.
We still have to do a music show, but I want to leave you with this, okay? I don't know. For whatever reason, I was doing some research on that Google thing, and I was trying to figure out what was considered the greatest rap line of all time. And believe it or not, it belongs to. And you mentioned his name. It belongs to Inspector Deck. And apparently, apparently it's rated. And I don't know if there's some kind of. I don't know who's saying all this, but the general consensus is that his opening line to the Triumph song is considered the greatest bar ever written in rap.
Triumph is legit, man.
Yeah, right. Isn't that crazy? Inspector Deck. Yeah.
What's the opening line?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Let's see here. Hold on. I was just trying.
His opening line.
Methuselah wants to know.
Methuselah, it's I bomb atomically, Socrates' philosophies and hypotheses can't define how I'd be dropping these.
Mockeries.
Wow.
It goes further than that, but that bar is like considered like
no alliteration, but a lot of rhyming. Okay.
They've even dissected it in college classes and literary courses. Same thing with Nas, man. The Wu-Tang will never be duplicated.
I'll tell you what, too.
You're right.
That
man.
song, I'm glad you brought it up, because you go back to the United and listen to instrumental and just hear the violin played in the background of that. It's sick.
That's all RZA.
That's all Bobby Digital. That's all RZA. Absolutely. That's all
Bobby Digital.
Listen, that album, that song is the equivalent of putting like LeBron, Kobe, Michael Jordan, all those guys on the same team.
Absolutely.
Yes. I love that.
Can never be duplicated.
That's a great way to end. Again, we talk everything. This Heat Radio Sports is about not just sports; it's about culture. It's about everything. So I love our music talks. We will get. I know Scotty was talking about doing something, but Mike, we are going to one day find out and get Mr. Scott Storch.
We will
somehow, some way.
Yeah, I might have a backline connection to that. I told you about that, so we're going to work on it. It would be fun to interview him.
Yeah, it would be fantastic. Just to hear some stories, it would be fantastic. And again, thanks for everybody tuning in. We went an hour and 22, only 7 minutes over, which isn't bad because domestic violence took a little hit. But guess what? It is something that needs to be talked about. So, we had a great baseball talk, great basketball talk. We had a nice trivia question. Dan and Vance, thank you so much for last minute coming on. Really appreciate it. Guys, check them out on Thursday at Flyer and Ice Pod. Is it 7:15 Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Okay. No. Is there any Flyers? They're still on COVID protocol.
They're still on COVID, but we want so much viewership because we're doing a bracket where we want viewers' input.
Sweet.
In our penalty box segment.
I love it. It's going to be great. I mean, again, this show's been tremendous. The network has been great. Again, Sunday with Half Court Heat. Myself, Al Griffin, Andre Johnson. Tonight, the four of us right here, we'll get Dave and John back eventually. They have some things to attend to. Tomorrow night, we have the Fantasy Firebox. It will be me, myself, Dan Green, special breath, my boy X, my boy Mark Drumheller from Fox Sports The Gambler will be jumping on with us. And we are supposed to have Ann Shore back, the professional female handicapper, to give us hopefully another pick from Pick Dogs Thursday. As always, Flyer and Ice Pod, which is wonderful. On Friday night, we have our man JD, Mr. Jamar Dean, to the wire, talking all things sports, college, and professional. Saturday is open for right now, and Sunday is half court heat. And Friday night, I think it's Friday night. Yeah, this Friday night I will be on 4th and John. We're going to be talking about some college rookies and some fantasy football and some NFL. And next week we will have Jeff Mosher from Inside the Birds. He will be on this show, hopefully talking about a Carson Wentz trade. Next week we'll get back in the Eagles talk. And the following week we will have Frank Close from the Powder Blue podcast from 97.3 ESPN on the show to talk some Philly. So again, as always, give us a follow at Heat Ratio Sports. And follow us on YouTube, all social formats. Be safe, be healthy, and see you next week.